Welcome children. Today we continue with chapter 5 of civics for standard 9th, working of institutions, and this is part 4 and concluding part of the lesson. Now children, let us return one final time to the story of office memorandum that we started with. This time let us not recall the story but imagine how different the story could have been. Remember, the story came to a satisfactory end because the Supreme Court gave a verdict that was accepted by everyone. Okay, imagine what would have happened in the following situations. Now children, imagine what would have happened in the following situation. The first, if there was nothing like a Supreme Court in the country. Second, if there was a Supreme Court, if it had no power to judge actions of the government. Third, even if it had the power, if no one trusted the Supreme Court to give a fair verdict. And fourth, even if it gave a fair judgment, if those who appealed against the government orders did not accept the judgment. Now, in such a scenario, that is why an independent and powerful judiciary is very essential for all democracies. And all the courts at different levels in the country put together are called the judiciary. So you can see this is a picture of a Supreme Court, which is the highest court of appeal in the country. The Indian judiciary consists of the Supreme Court for the entire nation. It is at the national level, and here big disputes of the country are resolved. And then we have at the states the high courts where disputes of the states are resolved, and then we have district courts and courts at the local level, okay, where they resolve disputes at the district and local level. Now anyone can approach the court if he is not satisfied with the violation of his rights or any other matter that he needs to get resolved. He can approach the court. Normally they start with the district court at the local level. Okay, he approaches the local level, the district court, and if he is satisfied with the judgment of the district court, then the matter is solved. Otherwise, if he is not satisfied, then he can go up to the high court. Okay, and if he is still not satisfied with the verdict given by the High Court, then he can approach the Supreme Court, and the verdict of the Supreme Court is final because that's the highest court of appeal in a country, and if the Supreme Court gives a verdict, which means it's the final verdict which has to be followed. So India has an integrated judiciary. It means that the Supreme Court controls the judicial administration in the country, and its decision, whatever decision Supreme Court, it is binding on all other courts. Okay, now the Supreme Court can take up any disputes. Now which disputes? Disputes between citizen of the country, disputes between citizen and government, disputes between two or more state government, disputes between government and state government. And Supreme Court is the highest court of appeal in both civil and criminal cases, and it can hear appeals against the decisions of the High Court also. Now what is an independent judiciary? Now imagine a situation in which a powerful politician has encroached on land belonging to your family, and within this judicial system the politician has the power to appoint and dismiss a judge from his office. Okay, so when you take this case to the court, what will happen? The judge will be partial towards the politician because the politician has appointed him, so he cannot give an independent decision because he knows that if he doesn't give a verdict in the favor of the politician, he will lose his job. So because of these things, he lacks to give an independent verdict, and okay, and the judgment will go in favor of the politician. So we often hear of such rich and powerful people in India trying to influence the judicial process, but the Indian Constitution protects against this kind of situation by providing independence of judiciary. So you know, we have learnt about the other branches, the legislature and the executive. They cannot interfere in the work of the judiciary, and the courts are not under the government and do not act on their behalf. Now, to ensure the independence of judiciary, judges in the High Court and the Supreme Court are appointed with very little interference from the other branches of the government. And you can see once they are appointed, it is difficult to remove a judge. Now, judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister and in consultation with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And in practice, it now seems that senior judges of the Supreme Court select the new judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court. So there is little scope of interference by the political executive. The senior most judge of the Supreme Court is usually appointed by the Chief Justice. Once a person is appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court or the High Court, it is nearly impossible to remove him or her from that position. It is as difficult as removing the President of India. A judge can be removed only by an impeachment motion passed separately by two-thirds members of the two houses of the parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, two-thirds members present and voting. Okay, and so far it has never happened in the history of Indian democracy that a judge has to be impeached. So children, here you can see the appointment of the judges are done by the executive and they are removed by the legislature by two-thirds majority of the members present and voting in the parliament when both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And that removal process is called as impeachment. So our judiciary is so independent that nobody, no leader, no person can influence a judge to pass a verdict in their favor. They cannot put pressure on the judge. He gives an independent verdict. Now, the Indian judiciary is one of the most powerful in the world. Okay, and the Supreme Court and the High Court have the power to interpret the constitution of the country. Now, if any law that has been passed by the legislature or been implemented by the executive, it can review those laws, and if it finds it is not in accordance with the constitution, it can declare it invalid, or maybe it will ask the parliament to change the laws. Okay, this process is called as judicial review. It reviews all the laws that are made by the parliament and sees that it doesn't challenge the basic structure of the constitution. Okay, so this is the main work of the judiciary, and it also acts as a guardian of the fundamental rights. So if any person's fundamental rights have been violated, they can approach the courts. So children, here you can see that the Supreme Court goes through all the laws, reviews all the laws that are made by the parliament, and they can order the parliament to either change the laws or declare it invalid. Now, the courts are the guardian of our fundamental rights. If any of these rights are violated, then any one of us can approach the court. And which are these 6 basic rights? They are the right to equality, right to freedom of religion, right against exploitation, right to constitutional remedies, cultural and educational rights. So, if any of these rights are violated, we can approach the court. Now, while anyone can approach the court, but in reality, the court always has been difficult for a vast majority of poor people in our country. Because it involves a lot of legal procedures, a lot of money, paperwork, and a lot of time. For a poor person who cannot read and whose family depends on daily wages, the idea of going to the court to get justice almost seems remote. Okay, so understanding this, in response to this, the Supreme Court in the early 1980s devised a mechanism called public interest litigation, or PIL, to increase access to justice. Now, it allowed any individual or an organization to file a PIL in the High Court or Supreme Court on behalf of whose rights have been violated. Okay, the legal process was greatly simplified by writing a letter to the Supreme Court or High Court. It was treated as a PIL, And in the early years, PIL was used to secure justice on a large number of issues such as rescuing bonded laborers from inhuman work conditions, securing the release of prisoners in Bihar who were kept in jail even after their punishment term was complete. So these were some of the things just to increase the number of cases and give justice to many people. This system or mechanism of PIL was started by the Supreme Court in 1980. With this, we conclude the chapter. Do view and subscribe and wait for my next video. Thank you.